place all trash and receptacles provided throughout the ferry. Thank you for riding the Staten Island Ferry.
It's a summer Sunday morning in New York, heading to Staten Island. Now, I'm in search of a bit of a holy spot, the oldest continuously used cricket ground in the United States.
All crew members to Alcock in St. George Slip number 3.
Go up to the saloon deck if you're on the main deck. You cannot get off the boat on the main deck. Saloon deck only.
In 1964, 11 men hewn from Yorkshire grit heard that very public service announcement as they were on their way to play cricket in North America. Sporting missionaries. Today, it's cold, it's wet, it's miserable. So we just have a bit of Gershwin, played by a colliery brass band.
I remember Fred batting in a Stetson hat. They couldn't knock the skin off a rice pudding. I mean, he kept trying to welly this ball, and it was like matting on grass, I think it was.
I have no idea. I wasn't here.
It's the sport of the young Muslim New Yorkers. New York Police Department has done this big outreach program to sort of keep them out of the hands of ideological extremists.
My name is John. If you call me Jack, I shall cancel the interview straight away.
Right you are.
I detest it. Okay. Detest it.
This is about a clash of culture. A touring squad of professional cricketers dropping into the all-churning, angry America of the mid-1960s. They were here to play a bunch of well-meaning amateurs culled from the Sunday leagues who played in the public parks of New York. The whole thing was organised by a fella called Ron Roberts, a journalist come promoter. The novelist Dan Waddell knows his story.
He's a fascinating character. He was really trying to take cricket to places where cricket was still growing or where there was an opportunity to grow it further. On the way back from one tour in 1963 to the Caribbean, he stopped off in Los Angeles. I think he was only there 48 hours, but he was a cricket lover, and he went to the Hollywood Cricket Club, which is, you know, famous for where C. Aubrey Smith and David Niven and Neville Flynn played cricket. He came up with the idea of a cricket tour to America.
This is definitely not an immaculately trimmed outfield. There's about 3 inches of grass and patches of clover, big 3-leaved clovers right on the outfield. In a country that puts heritage markers up at the drop of a hat, this was all pretty low-key. Hi. What's that?
Are you tearing that up?
No, I'm being very careful with it. Are you to do with the cricket club?
The cricket club will be here Saturday.
Saturday? They play Saturdays?
Saturday and Sunday.
Okay. So they still play on this pitch?
Oh, yeah. They've been here for years. 125, okay?
I know. It's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have you been...
Yeah, sure. I'm 125, okay?
I know that. I can tell. What's your name?
Joan.
Joan. So how long have you been involved in the park service here?
In this park, 16 years.
Okay.
I still don't understand it.
Really?
Really. All I got is they play in a circle.
Yeah.
That's all I got. Do you want to see inside?
Yeah, it could be. That'd be great. Wow. There's a radio on in the background and the faint smell of kerosene. Oh, sorry, it's the paint.
I paint.
Oh, I see. So you just put a fresh coat of paint, black paint, on some of the tables here.
Mm-hmm. And in that door behind there's the men's locker. That's the women's room. That's all I can tell you about the joint.
It's quite a big space. You've got these great fireplaces at either end, and when they have the games here, presumably this is where they lay out the tea and buns and have
they set this all up their way.
So they do it properly.
Yeah.
And this is as it probably would have been in 1964.
I have no idea. I wasn't here.
Dan Waddell.
The only time cricketers went away overseas to play cricket was if they'd been picked for England or picked for a representative team, the MCC, and toured. You know, this was the first time very young Jeff Boycott had been on an aeroplane.
I had still to make my name at cricket. I was just a young kid with spectacles, and as Fred said, a puff of wind, I thought he thought would blow me away.
This was a big deal to take a team to America in the first place. Yorkshire were the champions. You know, this was, you know, the last great Yorkshire team. Proper when we were king stuff. You've got Bryan, Ray Illingworth, Fred Trueman, Jeff Boycott, John Hampshire, it would have hammered the England team, because, half of them played for England, but it was the best team they could send.
But what intrigues me is the people who were rounded up to take on these cricketing giants.
We've got a little flyer here stuck on the notice board of the Staten Island Cricket Club. The date of it is the 2010 season. I'm not sure they've updated it, but it's got all their contact details. Please join and discover your cricketing talents, it says.
They're looking for younger people.
I'll bet. We all are.
They are looking for younger.
That contact number in the clubhouse did give us a lead to one of the old players from half a century ago.
My name is Clarence Modest, and I am currently the president of the Staten Island Cricket Club, have been for some 20-odd years. I joined the Staten Island Cricket Club in 1961, primarily because it offered lots of cricket and also lots of travel playing cricket.
In terms of sport, cricket in America is, well, it's a second-class citizen, isn't it?
Or third. Yes. A lot of people, if you mention cricket to them, they'll think of the little insect. That's what they know as cricket rather than a sport. Prior to the Civil War, cricket was the biggest and best organized sport in this country. The game was brought here by the British. These were not ordinary Britons. They were the owners of factories, of banks, the railways. They had monies to invest. It was a progression of British trade from the days of slavery through colonialism, the birth of the Industrial Revolution. The center of cricket was in Philadelphia. Marion, Germantown, and the Philadelphia Cricket Club, or the three remaining clubs, formed the center of cricket in Philadelphia and the country.
Despite the efforts of more than 1,500 law enforcement officers, efforts to quell rioting and looting in North Philadelphia have not been successful. A rash of police injuries have been reported, and the arrest total has now climbed above the 200 mark.
In 1964, it was America was going through its own tumultuous period, the civil rights movement, a younger generation, post-war generation with their own attitudes, their own sense of what was right in society.
Yes, we are entertaining an all-white Yorkshire team, but for us, we still saw the picture as the game being bigger than us, and so we were going to go through with it. Not because we liked Yorkshire that much, but because, according to Shakespeare, not because I like Caesar less, but because I like Rome more.
Jeff Boycott.
3 weeks to America, Canada and Bermuda was a nice jaunt. I remember at the Scarborough Festival we all had to have injections. I can't remember what, but I know that the doctor had to check whether they'd taken and mine hadn't. And so I had to have another one because you have to have these certificates signed, didn't you, before you left the country, and entered another one. And unfortunately, during the flight over, both of mine must have taken, so I'd had too much. I was sick, I wasn't well, I was hot and cold and obviously shivering, and I went to the ground next day with everybody. A policeman started talking to me, and lo and behold, he'd emigrated from Wombwell, which is near Barnsley, Dickie Bird, Michael Parkinson area. He gave me a lift back on his motorbike to the hotel. That's what I remember more than anything. And I asked him about his gun, which they all carry in America. I said, have I had to use it? Because for us Englishmen, that was quite off-putting. And he said, not yet.
What I remember most distinctly about Boycott, we had agreed that we were going to throw a party for the visitors on a Saturday night, I believe it was. Throw in a few dollars here and there to buy enough booze and food and that sort of thing. Boycott sat in a corner and drank one beer after another, all evening long. There was sparse and limited conversation. He was not very talkative at the time. He didn't say very much. But he was very good at drinking beer, in fact.
Maybe it was part of another one of the side effects from his smallpox.
I can't say, don't know, but it may be.
I didn't remember much about New York, which is nothing against the city, but I wasn't at my best, unfortunately.
But you were right in the middle of, this was the most tumultuous period in modern American history.
And it was all going on, and yet it didn't touch us. Yeah. We knew it was like there, but it kind of, in some ways, was none of our business. We were there as guests, we were on holiday. I remember Fred batting in a Stetson hat. And he kept trying to hit the ball when he went into bat. Well, he made such a mess of it. I mean, he couldn't knock the skin off a rice pudding. I mean, he kept trying to welly this ball, and it was like matting on grass, I think it was.
Interesting. I've been to that ground in New York where you played, which again was matting laid on sand, and the pavilion incredibly basic, like a municipal changing room, really. I mean, did you feel it a little bit like you were slumming it, really?
No, we didn't actually. We treated it as it was meant to be.
Now, the first match on the Saturday, that had ended in a draw. But on the Sunday, something remarkable happened. An unknown slow left-arm spin bowler, Othniel Larrier, who'd originally been from Barbados, had come to New York only a couple of years earlier, was drafted into the team.
We knew that he was going to provide a real lift to the club relative to his bowling. He was very good at it. The manager of our club said to us at the end of the evening, guys, go to bed, get yourself a good night's sleep because we must win tomorrow's game. Some of us, however, wanted to go out on the town, and Larrier was one of those. And so Larrier went out, came back to the hotel. It must have been about 5 o'clock in the morning. The manager got up very early to go out, do whatever it is, and ran into Larrier on the elevator. I said, Larrier, are you coming in? Yes, he said, I'm just coming in. He said, boss, let me have 2 hours sleep, and then come and wake me up and get me some coffee, and I'll bowl the team out for you. And he did it. He did exactly that. That was a very good performance, I think, given the standards of Yorkshire. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And on a batting wicket, which is a good batting wicket, one would think.
I'm suspicious. Do you think they were hungover from the night before?
It's possible. But we won't use excuses, would we?
No, and that's part and parcel of friendly cricket anyway. If you get the opposition drunk, it doesn't...
That's right. It's part of the strategy, maybe.
Right, here it is. This is Wisden for 1965. Everything you need to know about the 1964 cricket season, which included, on page 906, a short paragraph, New York had the satisfaction of dismissing the strong county 11 for 125 in the second match.
In any normal circumstances, you'd expect cricketing nobility to just shrug this one off, but this was brand Yorkshire. There was no place for charity. John Hampshire was also on that tour of 64.
Fred had this lovely habit of not really getting changed to go on the field until about quarter of an hour before start of play, and took himself and his pipe into the opposition dressing room and pull them to pieces. So by the time they were batting, whether they batted first or second, they were demoralised by this great man.
So he would go into the dressing room and what sledge them in the parlours that we know now?
He wouldn't sledge them, but he did say that they weren't much good. And he would tell the captain that he'd probably had better for his breakfast that morning.
We did have players like Fred and Closey who weren't lacking in confidence. I mean, Fred, it was not too long if somebody didn't get out, up sunshine. And if you hang around here much longer, you'll be finishing up in hospital. It wasn't long, there was no helmets then or anything, so it wasn't long about telling people that you can either get out or be carried out, one way or the other. So they were not shy, some of them.
And the number we're going to do when he's ready is a number from the film we just made. It's a slow number, and it's on our new album, and it's called If I Fell.
The day you were playing the Joint Leagues of New York, in New York, the Beatles were playing their first gig in America at the Paramount Theatre. They were just about to break the stage.
They're a little bit bigger than us. Even with Fred Trueman, Bryan, Raymond Illingworth, and a young boycott just playing for England. I don't think we were quite in their league.
Well, you say that.
I like Paul McCartney, though. I've never really met him. I passed him once at Lord's. He was coming out of the media lift.
You say you were not as big as the Beatles. In cricketing terms, you were the Beatles, weren't you? This is the Yorkshire cricket team who'd won however many county championships on the trot.
We'd won more than anybody.
Going back to Fred Trueman, this is a picture of him here. Mm. You know, this is him in his pomp. That's him firing a ball down at 80 plus miles an hour, probably. No one will ever know because it was never measured.
Right.
But by all accounts, he was pretty quick and pretty lethal.
Yes.
It must have struck terror into you lot, mustn't it?
Well, I don't really think so. The reason that's quite interesting, the West Indians in particular were used to playing fast bowling on hard wickets, harder wickets than you ever get in England, as we know. Sometimes concrete wickets. They grew up as youngsters in their teens playing on concrete wickets. I mean, really raw speed. So I don't think that in itself was troublesome.
Dan Waddell.
There are so many stories that they told. You know, Fred Trueman spent time as a stand-up comedian, you know, as well as a TV presenter. And, you know, these were not men who were shy of telling the story and extolling their virtues. But interestingly, none of them had really spoken about this. That's what I always found interesting about this. I would have thought it was firmly imprinted on all their psyches, you know, travelling to America at that time. I don't think it was because they were ashamed of it. I think, you know, obviously the cricket was tough. But I think it's one of the more unlikely episodes in Yorkshire cricket history, the time they tried to conquer America at the same time as the Beatles.
As the dollars rolled in for the Fab Four, the Yorkshire team were also enjoying the spoils. John Hampshire.
And as I remember, our sponsorship amounted to a collapsible chair and a raincoat. And that was our total sponsorship. We didn't get any payment, but we were absolutely lauded over there. I mean, the hospitality was incredible.
To try and experience just a little of what it might have been like for those players back in 1964, I'm on my own tour. I've got my kit and I'm heading to the birthplace of cricket in North America.
We've arrived at Philadelphia Station. It's the most fantastic, huge edifice to the American railways you can imagine, with Art Deco pendulant lights hanging down from the ceiling high up above us. Doric columns, the whole 9 yards. Can I help you? Hi there. We're looking for the International Cricket Festival, which is taking place in Philadelphia today.
Do you know the address?
Haverford College, isn't it?
Haverford's not even in the city. It's Philadelphia on a global scale, but it's not in the city. This will be track 4 up there.
Fantastic. How long?
It leaves every half hour, and I can tell you how long it takes.
Okay.
Not even 20 minutes.
So have you had lots of people coming out asking you about?
No, you're the first ones actually. I've had people asking about the lacrosse.
Lacrosse.
There's an alumni game.
Oh, okay. So,
but mostly everybody's going to the Penn Relays. That's the college and high school track and field thing that's once a year.
Oh, so it's a bit of a clash with the International Cricket Festival, it sounds like.
I hate to say it and disappoint you, but the Penn Relays are pretty big.
Okay.
They've been going on for over 100 years.
So what you say, you haven't seen loads of people in whites carrying big bags?
For all I know, you could be putting me on.
Bags. It's a pleasure. Thanks very much.
All aboard! Random Albert! All aboard!
We've walked up from the station and we've just walked underneath a stone arch with the words Marion CC 1865 on it. This is the place. And as we walk up, there are beautifully kept ornamental gardens, and just coming into view is the pavilion itself, which looks like something out of the home county, something from the rolling downs of Sussex. Red, stone-built pavilion. And they're serving afternoon tea with white tablecloths and silver salvers. There's a bloke just come off the pavilion and he's got a plate of melon.
Good running.
Hi, can I interrupt you for a sec? Are you one of the visiting teams?
We are.
You are? Okay, right. Where are you from?
Well, we're the Mad Dogs, and we're based in Connecticut, Stamford, Greenwich area. Some of us live in New York City. I live in Manhattan myself. We've been coming here for 15, 17 years. We're long-standing invitees, and we've always had a fantastic time here.
Actually, your team look a little bit older than the rest of some of the other players.
We're not in the fullness of our youth.
I mean, I'm sure you've got a youth policy, don't get me wrong.
We have a youth policy, and we haven't been able to find any.
Whereabouts are you from?
Originally, I'm from North India.
What's your team?
Marion Cricket Club.
The hosts.
You have your whites?
I've got my whites with me, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah,
we'll put you in touch with the captain.
Men's locker room. I tell you what, when Fred Trueman and Geoffrey Boycott came to this place, they must have thought they'd landed in some sort of luxury resort. This isn't Headingley or Scarborough or Ilkley. This is upstate, fancy Philadelphia. And we've got these brilliant, beautiful green locker frontages here and the bench in between. You've got a great personal grooming space. After you've had your match, you've sweated off a bit of energy. There is this, it's almost like a bar of grooming products
from aftershave lotion to Virgin Island Bay rum, Vitalis hair tonic. I didn't even know they made that still. I'm going to love this. This is the Pinot Clubman aftershave lotion. I smell like an Ivy League freshman. Time for a pre-match huddle and a pep talk from the Merion coach. He's 94.
Well, I don't want to take up too much time. Concentrate. That's all I can say. Concentrate, because what's happening now and again is the bowler just bowls the ball in the general direction of the batsman and hopes for the best. That's not good enough. So go to it, gentlemen. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you, Coach. Thank you. All right, boys.
This is going to be a tall order. The bowler was playing really tight. He skewed it towards me. I had to run about 15 yards and I just held onto a slider, slid across the floor.
Bloody good catch by any standard.
Despite my heroics clinging onto that catch at deep extra cover, we lost. Didn't quite make it. What a shame.
Beautiful day. Two competitive teams. Ending up on the losing side is not the worst thing. We can get a good full game of cricket.
Now, what's your name, sir?
My name's Dick Stumbles. Dick Stumbles.
Dick Stumbles?
Yep.
So, Dick Stumbles, you're from?
I'm from Melbourne, Australia.
And you come all the way to North America, to this small, obscure college town in the suburbs of Philadelphia.
We've actually come via Mexico City.
And you're all over 60?
Average age is about 68.4 or something. Our oldest player is, I think, 74.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And so what do you think of coming here and playing in this festival? It's a great event, isn't it?
Absolutely unbelievable. I mean, our age is not suited to 2020 cricket. We got absolutely thumped this morning by a bunch of young blokes.
Paul Hensley is the president of the C.C. Morris Cricket Library in Haverford.
Cricket was played here in colonial times. There are records where people down in south at some of the plantations played cricket in the 1600s. But cricket flourished in the Philadelphia area. It was brought over by immigrants, and it was also picked up by all sort of levels of the social strata within Philadelphia.
This is a wonderful, looks like an early Victorian shop. A real mixture of people, obviously in a cricket team, but some wearing straw boaters, some wearing very sort of agricultural farm hats and things like that.
Yes, this was taken around the time of the U.S. Civil War. Cricket was very popular before the U.S. Civil War, and was the game that was played by both northern and southern troops to pass the time of day. And unfortunately, because of the sheer level of carnage associated with our Civil War, something in the neighborhood of 800,000 people died in combat, whole teams from communities were wiped out because divisions were wiped out. And they volunteered and went as a geographic group. So if they were in the line of fire and were severely wounded, the town lost its team. And so there was a whole effort after the Civil War to reestablish cricket in the United States.
But I'm right in thinking that after the Civil War, it was baseball that sort of took hold that bit more.
And that's when it started, because you lost people to teach children how to play cricket. The experienced players had died in the war or were crippled. And so baseball was a little easier sport to teach.
New York, though, is where the grubby urban form of Cricket America clings on. Joseph O'Neill's novel Netherland has a survivalist's approach. The book is set in the amateur cricket world of New York in the aftermath of 9/11. Trinidad-born Chuck is a larger-than-life hustler. He's grand plans to bring cricket back to the masses.
Directly to the north of the hotel, a succession of cross streets glowed as if each held a dawn. The taillights, the coarse blaze of deserted office buildings, the lit storefronts, the orange fuzz of the street lanterns, all this garbage of light.
His story is that cricket was the first team sport, and therefore the American identity somehow lost its way when it gave up cricket for baseball. It's a truly American sport, and it's a way for America to reconnect to its origins and its kind of original path.
Joseph O'Neill still plays regularly in the Staten Island team that inspired the book, on that same turf where Boycott and Trueman trod.
As it happens, the authorities are now interested in cricket because it's the sport of the young Muslim New Yorkers. New York Police Department has done this big outreach program using cricket to provide recreational activities for Muslim youth. The perception being that it's one way to keep them off the streets and keep them out of the hands of ideological extremists. So the obscurity of cricket is not what it was, but it still remains a very tough game to play here.
Now that seems extraordinary, doesn't it? That cricket survival is effectively as an arm of the Homeland Security.
Well, we'll take it. We'll take whatever we can get. You do what you can. It's New York City. No one's going to give you anything.
What we're getting as well is a picture of the early 60s in New York and a cricket team and your own team, the Staten Island Cricket Club, embracing lots of different cultures around about the time that the civil rights movement was really kicking off.
It's gone to the other extreme now. For years, I was pretty much the only white player in New York City. There were maybe one or two others I would run into in the course of 5 or 6 years, but that would be it.
And interestingly, that Clarence was saying also that there was a slight ambivalence towards the Yorkshire team because, of course, it was Yorkshire players, Yorkshire born only for so long, and Yorkshire almost represented a sort of their own
apartheid. That's an old model of grouping. This idea of original purity was upheld by Yorkshire for a long time.
Clarence Modeste.
What has happened with larger numbers of migrants from various parts of the world? You go to Staten Island, which has the largest Sri Lankan migrant population in the country. You find 1 or 2 Sri Lankan cricket teams. Every member is a Sri Lankan. You go to Queens and Brooklyn, you find large numbers of clubs that are not just West Indians, purely Jamaican, purely Barbadian, purely Trinidadian, purely Guyanese. That only adds to the insularity of spreading the game out among Americans. When I say Americans here, red-blooded Americans, I like that term, because all of us have red blood, you see, Americans.
John Hampshire died just a few weeks after we interviewed him for this programme. At the end of our talk, sitting in the members' room overlooking Headingley, I confessed that I was actually from the other side of the Pennines, from Lancashire. Aye, lad, he said, we all have our crosses to bear.